We met out in the woods the next day for our lunchtime adventure. Everyone was a little quieter than usual, but most of the girls had regained their good humor. I, however, had not. I had slept poorly the night before, waking multiple times throughout the night, drenched in sweat, despite the Pacific Northwest's dreary, forever 50-degree weather. I had no recollection of my dreams, but it was hard to peel myself out of bed this morning. Needless to say, I almost didn't go to school, because I knew they were going to try again, and maybe even actively look for the black door. We were a curious bunch, and no one had seen it or experienced it, besides me. I was silent the entire way out into the forest, even when Elia shoved up next to me as we walked, digging an elbow playfully into my rib. "Did the black door follow you home?" she mock whispered. "Elia, the day you take something seriously is the day I die of shock." Aubrey had come up behind us and swatted at Elia's backside. Elia shrieked and leapt forward, skipping ahead of us a few steps and laughing. Should we call it 8 doors now, since Kat found a new door? This came from Emery, walking a little off to our left. "No," I said quietly. "I don't even really know what the hell I saw. But let's keep it at 7. Somehow, acknowledging the black door's existence seemed like it would make things worse. Or maybe I just wanted to pretend it never happened at all. Emery fell into step beside me. "Did you see anything on it? You know, besides that it was black." I shook my head. "Honestly, I wasn't looking super close. Though, I think there were designs in the center. But of what, I don't know." When we got to our spot in the woods, Jay and the other girls were already there. We formed our circle, with a girl named Lorraine taking the honored position of the traveler this time. Jay did most of the question asking when it wasn't her turn to travel, so she knelt on the carpet of dead pine needles first, before Lorraine lay down and situated her head on Jay's lap. "You ready?" Jay asked. Lorraine nodded and shut her eyes. Jay cupped her hands and placed them over Lorraine's face. She took a deep breath, shut her own eyes for a moment, and then nodded briefly. The circle of girls began chanting. 7 doors. 7 doors. 7 doors. After a few minutes, Lorraine's breathing had become slow and heavy, as if she were sleeping. We could see her belly rising and falling beneath her baggy Soundgarden shirt. Her hands fell open and slack at her sides. Her feet splayed outward gently. She looked deflated against the forest floor, as if she were a discarded doll with all the stuffing ripped out. Jay's voice cut through our chanting, and all our voices fell silent. "What do you see?" Lorraine let out a slow breath. Her voice sounded tiny as she said, "I'm in the woods. In the clearing." A pause and then, "I don't see any doors. I'm going to start walking west. Do you hear anything?" "There's a breeze. Really slight. I can hear the leaves rustling. But nothing else." "Do you see the black door?" This came from Emery, and Jay looked sharply across the circle at where Emery was sitting. It was against the rules for anyone besides the question asker to say anything or ask questions, to prevent any confusion when trying to pull someone back out of the imaginary woods. Lorraine's face furrowed slightly beneath Jay's hands, and Jay quickly repeated Emery's question to get everything back on track. Do you see the black door? Lorraine seemed to wait for a moment before answering, and my heart began to pound. No, I don't see anything like a black door anywhere around me. Lorraine continued to wander the woods for a while. She spotted a previously identified creature, a white stag in the distance. It looked like a normal four-pointed stag when we first saw it weeks ago, only it had a third horn spiraling straight from the center of its head, in between the two arching antlers. It always ran away if we walked directly towards it, but occasionally it liked to shadow us, following off to the side as we made our way through the woods. Lorraine didn't even bother walking towards the stag when she saw it, but changed direction and continued walking. She noted that it began following her off to the side, as it had done to many of us in previous journeys. After a few minutes of this, Lorraine came to the edge of a previously undiscovered ravine. A small, narrow trickle of water cut through the forest floor below her, and after a moment, she announced that she was climbing down to the water. Is the stag still there? A pause as Lorraine looked around. No, she said. I don't see him anymore. The ravine was dark and narrow, shallow enough to jump down. Although once Lorraine was next to the river, she noted that it was much darker than up on the forest floor. She began following the water south, describing roots and trailing moss sticking out of the sides of the ravine as she walked, overhanging branches and fallen tree trunks crossing over either side above her. After a few minutes, she said in a little whisper, I've stopped walking. I think it's getting darker. It was silent for a moment. Even the woods around those of us in the circle seemed to have become still. The cries and noises of the lunchtime chaos back on the school grounds, seeming to get farther and farther away. Do you mean the sun is blocked out from where you're standing? Asked Jay. No, replied Lorraine. Like the sun is going down or something. Like it's getting later in the afternoon. This hadn't happened before. Every time we journeyed, the sun was always at midday, bright and cheerful. Our gazes met nervously around the circle. Do you want to continue? Or head back? Asked Jay. A long pause. We all held our breath. Then, I'll continue for a little bit, said Lorraine, but I'm going to start heading back towards the clearing. Elia snorted quietly. Sissy, she muttered under her breath. The girl next to her punched her lightly in the thigh. Lorraine described walking a little further down the ravine, looking for a good place to climb back up. She said she found some knobby roots hanging out of the mud wall that looked like it would work well for handholds, when suddenly her breath caught. What is it? Asked Jay sharply. I think I see a door. Alarm pierced through me, but moments later Lorraine said, It looks like yellow wood, like a bunch of bleached, yellowing tree roots knotted together and woven into a door in the side of the ravine wall, across the river from me. Before Jay could respond, Lorraine added, I'm going to try to swim across the river and get to it. I thought she was coming back, I whispered to Emery next to me. Jay gave me a warning glare. We were supposed to be silent, but I wondered if Lorraine had heard Elia's sissy comment, because she went from being carefully cautious to suddenly diving into strange waters alone in an astral forest, ready to open a new door we'd never found before. Lorraine described herself walking into the river water. The current wasn't terribly strong, and she waded out to the center, carefully stepping on submerged boulders scattering along the base of the river. She got out to almost her chest, when suddenly her relaxed, deflated body stiffened in a spasm, and she let out a choking gasp. "What is it?" Jay asked quickly. "It's in the river." Lorraine's voice was a squeak. "Holy shit. There's a black door in the river. It's right underneath me. I almost stepped on it. Oh my god." Her fingers were clenching and unclenching against the forest floor. "Oh fuck. I'm coming back right now. Shit. It's right there. How the fuck?" "Come back, Lorraine," Jay said sharply. "Hurry. Just get to the clearing." Lorraine described herself turning and splashing inelegantly back to the shore, launching herself out of the water and climbing the roots up to the sides of the ravine. Her breath began coming in short, sharp gasps, feet twitching and hands scrambling slightly against the ground. She said she had gotten to the top of the ravine, had crawled away from the river on hands and knees, and had turned around once, only to see that the black door was now at the edge of the ravine where she had just climbed up, towering against the backdrop of trees and sky, and completely shadowing her from the sun. No, no, no. She began muttering to herself. "I'm running. Fuck, it's right behind me, guys. What the fuck?" She began panting again, her chest heaving against the ground. I felt a cold sweat against the back of my neck, watching her. A few of us had grabbed each other's hands, gripping for dear life, white-knuckled in our circle. After a few moments, Jay asked, "Is it still behind you?" A short gasp from Lorraine. "Yes," she said. "Every time I look back, it's..." A few more gasping breaths. "It's maybe 10 feet from me." We waited, as she panted against the forest floor, her body wiggling and writhing in distress. Then she let out a sharp cry. "Lorraine?" Jay's voice was alarmed. "What is it?" "It's starting to appear next to me. Off to the side. Just not there 1 minute, and there again the next. Oh, fuck you guys." Then she suddenly inhaled deeply. "I see the clearing." "Hurry," Jay muttered. "Just let me know once you're there." Lorraine described looking over her shoulder and off into the woods on either side a few times. As she neared the clearing, she checked the woods one more time as her feet crossed the threshold, before saying, "Jay, I'm here. Get me." Her voice was cut off with a horribly loud scream, loud enough that every girl in the circle jumped. It's in the middle of the clearing. Jay, it's fucking opening." 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Jay ripped her hands back off of Lorraine's face. Lorraine's eyes snapped open and she sat up bolt right, one hand clutching at her throat. "Oh, Jesus," she said, gasping. "Oh, holy shit." We all closed in around her, asking a million questions. What did the door look like? Why was it following her? How was it opening, quickly or slowly? Did she get a glimpse of anything behind it? Once Lorraine caught her breath and calmed down a little, she said that it began slowly swinging outward as she stepped into the clearing, so she didn't get a good look at what might have been behind the door. She noticed a pattern on the door, especially the few times that it had gotten close to her. And with a shaky hand, she took a stick and drew a long horizontal line, with 3 shorter lines beneath it. 2 that were right next to each other, and the third one centered and a little below it. Around the line she drew a circle. That's all I can remember clearly, she said. There was more, but these were the biggest designs. She drew a shaky breath. I know we're here to explore and learn, but you guys, I didn't want to get near that thing. She shivered visibly. There's something wrong with it. The bell rang across the forest, and we all stood up, brushed dead needles from our clothes, and began the slow walk back to our school. Lorraine was unusually pale, and she kept rubbing at her eyes. Are you okay? I asked. Honestly? Not really. She pinched the bridge of her nose as she walked. I have a splitting headache. I kind of thought you were making up that whole black door yesterday. You know, to make your session interesting. Her tone was slightly apologetic. I'm going tomorrow. Elia's voice cut across the air as she fell into step next to us. I don't know why you didn't just open it and see what was inside. Yeah. You don't know, Elia, Lorraine retorted sharply. The door felt... I don't know. It felt menacing. Like it was threatening me. I felt the same, I offered. Like it was stalking me or something. It seems like it was a lot more aggressive with you. Lorraine didn't answer, but the pinched look on her face spoke volumes. All the doors move, Elia quipped. No door is ever in the same exact place twice. Maybe this one just moves a lot more than the others. We won't know anything until we've opened it, and not knowing just makes us more afraid. She squared her shoulders as we trudged back into the main building. I'm looking for it tomorrow, and if I see it, I'm opening it up. I want to know for sure what's behind this black door.